Hey everyone, I've got a really interesting topic today. I'm super excited to talk about it. It's kind of a weird trend that's going on right now, and I'm seeing a lot of discussions online. One of the reasons I'm seeing so many discussions is because some big companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Google are talking about COVID-19 passports. So I want to clear up some of the misconceptions and kind of the current state of vaccination and traveling, and then also kind of give you my opinion about the whole situation. So let's go ahead and dig right into COVID-19 passports and vaccination cards. We're getting started right now. So for those of you who have not seen a vaccination passport, this is essentially what it looks like. I'll try to get a good view of it. Hopefully it'll show there well. This is for yellow fever. I also have another one here for typhoid. And both of these I got in Vietnam when I was living overseas. Essentially, this was required because I was traveling in countries where they had outbreaks of yellow fever. One of these countries was Colombia. So essentially, without this yellow card, I could not leave Colombia to travel back to the United States or to travel anywhere else. They would literally not let me board an airplane without this piece of paper. And this is what I think is going to happen in the future for the COVID-19. Yellow fever, typhoid are a lot less deadly and a lot less common than a lot of these other diseases like COVID. So there's a lot of companies like Google, Microsoft, and Apple that are looking to figure out a solution. Something that's a little bit better, hopefully, than these really weird pieces of paper that you have to carry around with you or else risk not being boarded to leave a country. So if you don't have these two vaccines, again, this is something that if you're going to be traveling to South America or certain locations, you really need to be aware of this. It could really throw a hiccup in your travel plans if you don't have this. Right now, when filming this video, there's currently no COVID-19 passports in use yet, but I just wanted to talk about what it could potentially look like. Essentially, I think the modern version of this is going to be in some sort of technology or app that's funded by the World Health Organization or some other third-party organization, but helped developed by companies like Google, Apple, that have the infrastructure to essentially release these applications on their marketplaces, promote it for people. And I think they should also have an alternative where, one, you get a vaccine, you get this vaccination card, and then they have to go through a verification process to import it to the app. So in my opinion, there should be two options. One, the physical thing, and two, the application that you can use in case you lose this or don't have it handy. You can at least pull up the app and not risk having to board their flight because you've misplaced a piece of paper. So again, right now the status is with vaccinations, it is common, it is in use, and I think this is the direction that the world's going to have to go in to really open up travel. There's a lot of hurdles that people are going to have to get around, and if you want to travel, they might make this an actual requirement, and it'll be enforced by pretty much every airline. And the reason the countries don't enforce it is essentially because the airlines need to enforce this when the check-in process happens, or else that airline is reliable for paying your fines or fees. Or let's say you show up to the country, don't have this, and you have to get deported, the airline would be responsible for that. So that's why it can be very strict. And that's something that I do see happening, probably not in the next year, but I would assume in 2022, they're going to require vaccination records for COVID-19. And the other alternative was if you don't have this vaccination, they might not allow you on the plane, or they might force you to go through certain testing, certain quarantines, and other procedures where if you just show them this piece of paper, you'll easily be able to go in the country and you won't have to worry about spending 14 days in quarantine and kind of really delaying your vacation. The vaccination situation in the United States is a huge mess right now. When I was going through trying to round up my vaccinations, I actually had to reach out to my high school, and they didn't have a record of it. My doctors didn't have any records of my vaccinations, but luckily I was able to get in contact with my university at the University of Missouri. I actually had to send a fax through email supporting. You can actually do this. You can send faxes through Gmail, which is pretty cool. I had to send a fax through Gmail to my university, allowing them permission to release my vaccination records to myself with some other things like a passport ID. And, I had access to my university login, so they were able to do some approval processes to figure that out. We have papers that are storing all of our medical details. They're really not accessible overseas. And I've been living overseas for the past 10 years. If I want to get treatment from a doctor in another country, they don't really communicate well with each other. So I've kind of had to build my own system for previous test results, my vaccination results. And we just traveled to India recently. And that was the main reason I kind of went down this rabbit hole. Was I was getting a lot of the recommended vaccinations for India, and I didn't know which ones I had, which ones I hadn't. And that's why I needed to round up my previous vaccination records to see where I was at. Luckily I had all the required ones to go to university, to go to high school, and to go to school. So I had all that base stuff, and I was able to get the recommended and suggested vaccines for going and traveling around India. So there's a lot more that we didn't get. We just kind of got the baseline. If you are going to be visiting India, it's worth researching to figure out which vaccinations you think are going to be essential for your trip. It depends if you're going to be staying in cities or if you're going to be exploring out in the countryside. Again, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. You need to associate when you're traveling, get the most latest up-to-date information. And again, that stuff is changing very frequently, and it could change by the time you're watching this video. So again, what are your thoughts on getting a vaccination passport where you could have on your phone? I think it would be pretty cool to be able to easily see in an app, here's all the vaccinations I've had, and easily be able to show that when traveling instead of having to carry around some pieces of paper that are easy to lose. And if you do lose these, it's not an easy process to get another one. So I highly recommend the technology companies figuring out a plan that is going to be more secure, more stable, easier to use, and open up travel at a faster pace. So again, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are. Go ahead and leave a comment below. I'm just curious what you think about vaccine passports and these type of immunization cards. Let me know what you think. Would you really be interested in getting one of these if you were required to travel? Yes or no, why or why not? So let me know in the comments, would you go ahead and if, let's say you weren't able to travel without one of these vaccination records, would you just pick a country that didn't require it, or would you just stay at home? Curious to hear what your thoughts are. Go ahead and leave a comment below. And again, if you haven't subscribed yet, I'm releasing 2 videos every week, and I really appreciate any new subscribers that made it this far. And again, make sure you go ahead and like this video if you learned something new about vaccination records. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your day.